With that, we're going to go out of order and go to S2. This item does require a 4/5 vote for approval, and Mr. Cullinan will come forward with his presentation. Sorry, Ray.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioner. Sean Cullinan, Planning and Zoning Official. Give me a second to pull up my presentation. This item before you is an increase to the code enforcement fines, section 1-1, excuse me, I forgot the exact specific citation. Essentially, state statute allows for what we're referring to as a super fine to be done. There are very specific criteria involved in adopting an ordinance of this. So a fine imposed currently under statute 162.09 sub 2 limits it to $500 a day for a repeat violation, and a fine not to exceed in total $5,000 if it's irreparable or irreversible in nature. On determining the amount of fine, the Code Enforcement Board, or in our case a magistrate, statute allows for both, allows for certain factors. There is an enhanced fine, the super fine as we're calling it again, where if there's a population equal to or greater than 5,000 people, a majority plus one, yes, sir?
50,000.
I apologize.
According to the presentation.
Yes, I apologize. I'm trying to go through this quickly, I apologize.
Okay.
So as long as we have a super majority, the majority plus one, and those fines will not exceed 1,000 per day violation for a first violation, 5,000 per day for per violation for repeat, and up to 15,000 per violation if the board or magistrate finds the violation to be irreparable or irreversible in nature. Currently, what we have for fines and how we do our current fines is up to $50 a day for residential properties, or $100 per day for residential if it's a repeat violator or commercial, and currently up to $100 per day for commercial and up to $250 per day for repeat commercials. The purpose of this is those truly egregious health and safety issues and the irreparable or irreversible violations. There has been one or two violations that have been truly egregious, health and safety and welfare, and so we want to put this in per your direction to have that ability should these come along. And again, they are very few and far between, but they do occur. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Doherty.
Just a general question. When there is an order or judgment, whatever it may be, does that automatically put a lien on the real property?
No, sir. Once we get a violation, if the violation is upheld, the magistrate gives the violator a certain amount of time, typically between 15 to 30 days is what we request, depending on the size of the violation. We go back and do another inspection after that. If the violation is still there and people aren't working to fix it, then we will take back the affidavit of noncompliance, and that is the time when the lien and the fine start accruing.
Eventually a lien is placed if it's
that is correct.
Satisfied. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Thank you. I just have a quick question on, if you have a situation where, say, a permit's required and they limit that timeline to 15 or 30 days, but you can't get a permit for 15 or 30 days, how does staff work with that situation?
Many times the way we word the request is apply for a permit. So they can apply for a permit even if it takes more than 15 or 30 days to issue it. If they've applied for it, we will work with them to extend that date because they're taking steps to alleviate the violation.
So that may not be possible either within 15 or 30 days, because to get somebody to be able to draw something and get a signed and sealed approval from an engineer or architect, the timelines are a lot longer than that. So I'm concerned that we have to be careful when departments are communicating with each other what's going on and how, I'm not saying we shouldn't do this. I am saying we need to have some protections in place if somebody makes a mistake. If it's a willful violation or if it's a mistake, that's hard to determine sometimes. But I'm working with a situation now where a spouse who's passed away did work, which you're familiar with, did work at the house and never got a permit for it. So she's trying to rectify the situation. Not a code violation per se, but still a violation, right? So I'm just concerned that we're not going to take some of those things into consideration.
And again, we always do when and what we request versus what's imposed by the magistrate are typically two different things. We do look at situations like that. If somebody does need to have things drawn up, we might go for a 30 or 45-day request to apply for the permit. And the magistrate, given compelling circumstances at the actual hearing, he's been known to extend those. We know that right now contractors and folks are very busy, so he has been a bit more lenient on the timeframes. Typically, the 15 to 30-day remedies are for junk-like conditions because you can just start cleaning up the junk-like conditions. But those things that are going to have a lot more hair, if you will, we typically ask for at least the 30-day period, and typically the magistrate, if requested, will extend that out, knowing that sometimes it does take a while to get things drafted up, get permits submitted. Then again, once it's submitted, we can continue to work with them because they're taking those steps.
I thank you for that. I know you guys have always worked with people. It's more to get it on the record that that's going to continue, particularly with these harsh impositions.
And again, we look at this one, given those large amounts that they will be, we intend to use them very sparingly.
Right.
Again, I can only think of one situation in the past 10 years that would probably qualify under this super fine.
Mm-hmm. I probably know which one it is. Commissioner DeSeo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, when I've looked into code compliance issues, what I always found is that the priority is to get people into compliance, not fine them. And usually the discretion of the code compliance or the magistrate is to get them on a pathway to get things done. As long as he sees things happening, understanding that some things are longer than others, he gives them the time that they need. So my question is in regards to appeals process. Does anything change with the mechanism for appealing these fines? Because, you know, if some of these fines go up to $15,000 per day for egregious issues, what appeals process do they have? Is it through the courts or the special magistrate? What is that?
The appeal would be to the determination of the magistrate, so it wouldn't be necessarily to the fine, but it would be to the magistrate's order, and that is to circuit court. That's to take out any potential political influence or anything like that, and that's how it's set up in statute to make them completely separate.
And Joe, just a point of information, it's $15,000 per violation. There's per day fines not to exceed 5, 10, 15. So I just, okay.
So if you have an egregious situation, a discharge into our watershed, something happens, it's a one-time $15,000 fine, and then the daily is a lesser amount?
No, my understanding is that it could be up to a $15,000 fine per day.
Okay, yeah, because, yeah, that's,
So that slide needs to be corrected, because it says, and up to $15,000 per violation
Which is what I read.
per day.
Okay, I will get with the attorney's office and
Just, because it's the same thing. That's why I pushed the
my
button.
understanding is that these fines, they are per day that it can accrue, which it's intended to be if something is a health, life, safety, or truly egregious, irreparable, irreversible, that it's intended to be a really big hammer.
yeah, because you've got 1,000 per day, first violation, 5,000, and then 15, assuming they've gone through the 1,000 and 5,000 and still weren't in compliance. So then it's 15 and then 15 a day.
That's my understanding.
Okay, that's,
And I will
That slide doesn't reflect that.
I apologize. I will verify that with the attorney's office that drafted this section, and I will, if changes need to be made, we will get them changed.
I'm sure that we're going to have an answer here shortly.
well, yeah, because we're going to have to clean this up because you're asking us to approve the resolution today, and you need
Ordinance.
I'm sorry, the ordinance.
And the public hearing.
Yeah, so this has to be clear if it's per violation on the 15 or per day, so it's consistent with the 1,000 and the 5,000.
In looking at the ordinance, if I may, line 66, it does say it's 15,000 per violation.
So that's it, it ends, it's 5,000 a day.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
That doesn't make sense because, so it's capped at 15?
so it looks like.
Well, then, if you've caused millions of dollars in damage or hundreds of thousands, what's 15,000? That doesn't seem right to me.
I'm reading it, such fines shall not exceed 1,000 per day per violation for first violation, 5,000 per day per violation for a repeat violation, and up to 15,000 per violation if the Code Enforcement Board or Special Magistrate finds the violation to be irreparable or irreversible in nature.
Right.
Was that a mistake, or
No,
did
no,
they?
we've got-
It also, it's in statute. Our ordinance tracks the statute.
I'm reading the statute.
Yeah.
I'm
reading the ordinance.
I'm reading the Florida statute
Yeah.
language that the attorney is.
Right.
So
It has to follow the
it
statute.
sounds like the max they'll be assessed is $15,000 for a major violation.
But at least it's different than what we've got now
Yeah,
by a
yeah.
long shot, right? So,
Well,
I apologize for misinformation. Yes, that's why I want to pull up this, so that everybody could see it up here on the screen as well. So it would be per violation, so that is a maximum cap amount.
okay, go back up, yeah, right there. But you can do $1,000 per day for the first violation, and it's capped at 15 days? Is that how that reads then? Because it doesn't say that's not limited for a first violation. There's no limitations on that the way it's written.
if I may though, the way I'm reading this, and the county attorney can correct me, up to 15,000 per violation limits both first and repeat.
Well, it's just not clear, then it should say that with a maximum amount of 15 then.
So I think the up to reflects that.
Ryan Meyer, Assistant County Attorney. This language was taken directly from the statute, so for...
That's the Florida legislature. Here we go again.
Clear as mud.
It's
It's a hot mess. Another hot mess.
And there's not much case law regarding this, so...
Right.
I mean, what we can do is construe it to the best of our ability, and because every other portion is per violation, we would interpret it that way and explain that to the magistrate.
Unless we have extraordinary conditions.
Circumstances.
Extraordinary circumstances, that's right.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes.
may, also back to your comment earlier about working with the violator. It's actually in the statute, and it's on slide 2 of the presentation. So one of the factors that the special magistrate takes into consideration is any actions taken by the violator to correct the violation. So if they're prohibited from something, that would be taken into account.
I've seen our staff over the years work with people who are making an effort. Some make a little bit stronger effort than others do.
So I guess we're in a better place than we were before for really bad violators.
And I apologize, I just have in my head that every code enforcement fine is a per-day violation, that this just didn't even jump onto the radar.
And all this applies for people who top oak trees. It's the same thing.
Not just oak trees.
Yeah, or whatever, they top.
There are other circumstances I think would probably more fall under this, more than a tree topping, but that is something that we can have further discussions on. If you
So tree topping and discharging some toxins into our water supply they have the same $15,000 cap. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Constance?
Thank you. Yeah, and it's interesting because in determining the amount of the fine, if any, the enforcement board or magistrate, I guess, shall consider the following: the gravity of the violation, any actions taken by the violator to correct the violation, and any previous violations committed by the violator. So they allow past mishaps, and that's actually very good.
That's the repeat violator
Yeah.
concept.
What fines do we have right now? Just our basic?
These are what we go by as standard
Okay.
fines. We can go up to $500 per day currently, but these are what we currently set it at. So if it's
Okay.
a first-time homeowner, it's $50 per day.
Right, so let me ask you a question, though. If it's $200 per day for a repeat commercial violation, are they now capped at $15,000?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what we have, we're maxed at 15,000.
You are anyway, I think. By statute, I think you are.
Does that sound right, Ms. Knowlton?
Sir.
I think it would be right.
Okay.
And quite honestly, sir, even those amounts, we typically don't see those amounts. We have a lot of other processes in place, lien reductions, things like that, in order to, again, we're not out to beat people up and take money. It's not worth it.
We're out to correct the problem.
Correct. And so what we do is with those lien reduction processes, once a violation is correct, they can apply for that. There is a $1,000 administrative fee because there is some, and if we've expended any hard cost money. So if we've cleaned up junk-like conditions and it was a $2,000 bill, they would have to pay $3,000, but say their $15,000 lien would be wiped out and they'd pay the $3,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Deutsch?
Yeah, that's close to what I've been wanting to say, that the reality is my awareness and following of what happens in the magistrate, unless it is a major environmental issue or an extreme situation, the fine is mostly to draw someone's attention. And my experience has been the magistrates go overboard to be flexible, cooperative, to try and get the correction made rather than to secure the fine. And so in my mind, yeah, there'll be an extreme situation where it may be utilized, but pretty much it's just to help draw someone's attention, because traditionally, and again, in my awareness of what happens in the magistrate's office, they are very flexible and very cooperative. Their major focus is not to penalize someone, but to get them off their butt so they deal with the situation and get it corrected and be in conformity with what it should be.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item may come forward, state your name for the record, and you have up to 5 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak? Of course. Go ahead.
Well, good afternoon or good morning, Commissioners. So, if somebody discharges 215 million gallons into the Peace River, they're going to get hit with $15,000 fine, if I'm understanding this correct right now. President Reagan, he used to say the problem with government is too much government. Some of you might remember that. These offenders who have a track record of offending, such as 2015, a $1.8 billion environmental fine. I've done a lot of research on this. That was for the Mosaic Green Bay chemical plant. Uncle Sam in Louisiana was part of it, but the major portion of that $1.8 billion was for improper storage of toxic chemicals and discharging into the creeks and streams. And I personally know the attorney on that case. Only 6 months after that, and I want to address that $1.8 billion, Commissioners. From my understanding and research, I can't find the exact amount, but Mosaic did not pay $1.8 billion. They've put up, maybe I think it's around anywhere from 500 million or more, and it's in these accounts. And they're trying to get it to accrue, the interest, to come to equate to the $1.8 billion environmental fine. Now, I've said it many times in this chamber before, and I'm going to say it again. My name's Tim Ritchie. I'm a resident of Punta Gorda. I'm a resident of Charlotte County. I'm also a registered Republican. And I am a conservative, except when I shut my bedroom door with my girlfriend. And I am going to conserve this environment that we all love in this beautiful planet Earth. I hear so much mumbo and jumbo from Democrats and Republicans and NPA and independents. Again, if the CCP want their money and they come from the sky for payment, When we're running out to that field and I'm out there with these officers with our weapons protecting our country, am I going to ask either one of them, are you a Republican or a Democrat? Hell no. That's where our honor and pride as Americans stand forth from our parents and our grandparents. $15,000. Please, Attorney Knowlton, do something and change this. We need it to be like $1 million per day. This is a great example of why we should all be so worried about the 2023 Mosaic chemical plant coming up on Horse Creek, 15 miles from this chamber. Because Mosaic has a bad track record.
Richie, can you please keep it to the code?
Yes.
Thank you.
So that $15,000 code isn't going to help any of us very much here in Charlotte County. The Peace River and Myakka River and Charlotte Harbor are inches from becoming a Superfund site. Again, I commend all of you. Most people have no idea how difficult your job is every day and the stress you're under and the balance you do. This is not acceptable, $15,000, because we already know what's coming. We need to be able to find them up the gazoo. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Gentlemen, I see no one
Mr.
rising.
Chairman, I see no one rising and move to close the public input portion of the public hearing.
Motion second to close. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
move an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners of Charlotte County, Florida, amending Chapter 1-1, Section 1-1-15 of the Code of Laws and Ordinances of Charlotte County, Florida, entitled Penalties, providing for increased fines for code violations in accordance with Section 162.09, parens D, Florida statutes, providing for inclusion in the Charlotte County Code, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Motion is second. Further discussion? Hearing none, is there anyone in opposition to the motion? Hearing no opposition to the motion, passes unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. And just a little bit of a reminder, Mr. Ritchie, we don't get to surpass what the statute allows us to do, but there are other means of fines through the federal and state governments for those types of things. So we're at our limit to where we can go.